What's up, Super Players? It's your homie C-Rod back at it again with another video for you. And in today's video, I'm gonna tell you guys 10 cards that you have to own in Dragon Ball Super card game, because these cards are just the most optimal and versatile cards that exist in Dragon Ball Super card game. You can splash them into a variety of different decks, and they usually are cards that either A, save you from getting obliterated, or B, obliterate your opponent. So these 10 cards are cards that you need to have in your collection if you are playing Dragon Ball Super card game. So right off the bat, as you guys can see, we got Toto Righteous Aid. This card right here is a very expensive card. When it first came out, it was costing like around $1. Right now, it's around $15 to $20. So it's a very expensive card right now, and it's just uncommon. It's not even shiny, guys. The shiny version costs like $30 to $40. So this card right here is very, very necessary, because it is able to literally stop your opponent from doing any more attacks. As soon as Toto gets on the field, your opponent cannot make any more multiple attacks unless they drop 2 cards from their hand. And this is vital for victory, because it'll literally save you from getting destroyed by your opponent's big battle cards. And on top of that, it's a 20k battle card that stays on the field and causes some pressure to your opponent. This Toto Righteous Aid is a card that you definitely want to have if you are building any deck that has the color red in it. Now, this card right here is a very useful card. It can be splashed in almost any deck that has green, and that card right here is Vegeta The Cruel. This card right here can be thrown in literally almost any deck that runs dual colors, and one of the colors happens to be green. And Vegeta the Cruel is a card that is a counterplay, kind of like Toto, that comes out onto the field when your opponent plays a battle card. It KOs one of your opponent's battle cards and forces your opponent to warp 1 card from their hand. This card right here was costing like around $1 or less when it first came out, and now the card is so well played that it costs roughly around $7 to $15 right now, and it just happens to be a basic rare card. This Vegeta the Cruel could literally be splashed in almost any dual color deck that has green in it, and it's just so darn good because of its KOing and discarding abilities. Now, this card is literally one of the staple cards for any deck that has blue. And if you guys are Dragon Ball Super card game veterans, you already know what's up. We got Senzu Bean. This bean right here has been good from Series 1. Is one of the only cards from Series 1 that has never lost its, playability. It's always being splashed in almost every deck that has blue. This card is the epitome of staple cards. You have to own this card if you're running any deck that has blue in it. Why is this card so good? For 1 energy during the battle, you're able to pretty much get one of your energies back to active mode and give 5k power for the duration of the turn for either your leader or your battle cards to survive or do some aggro explosive plays. Senzu Bean is a card you must own right now. It's costing around $2, the common. But if you want to foil it out, get the alternative version, the Championship Final 2019 version, this card costs roughly around 50 bucks. Yeah, 50 bucks. But, you can just get the basic one from set 1, and it'll cost you roughly around $1 to $2. But it's a card that you definitely want to pick up. You need this card in your Dragon Ball Super card game arsenal. Alright, now we're going to be going into the black card. That is one of the black cards that literally steals games on its own, and that card is this fool. Fu the Dark Banisher. This fool right here is a very cheap card, and it's an overram card, meaning you got to get a certain amount of cards in your drop area in order to bring it out for 4 energies, as you guys can see in the card illustration. And this card is literally a game ender. It has triple attack and a permanent that if your opponent decides to use any sort of skill, they have to warp 1 card from their hand. This card, if your opponent's at 2 lives or 3 lives upon play, he's going to destroy your opponent's hand, because if they try to super combo or try to survive by using negates, they're going to be warping a lot of cards from their hand, and it's a triple attack, so it's enough pressure to finish the job. And this fool is costing around $2 right now. $10 the the high rarity, but it's a card that you can literally splash in almost every deck that you have, and it's able to literally just be a game ender. This is a boss monster that finishes the job, and it's, you know, easily splashable. So this is a card I would recommend to have in your Dragon Ball Super card game arsenal if you're trying to build a variety of different decks. Alright, so the next one happens to be a super combo. This is the only super combo I might have in this list because this super combo is literally the best super combo out of every super combo in Dragon Ball Super card game. Alright, so as you see, defending Father Peregrines from the starter deck or structure deck, I'm not sure what it is, but the Broly starter deck has this defending Father Peregrines. This is the only way you can get this card, and this card is literally the best super combo in Dragon Ball Super card game for the reason that it allows you to draw 2 cards and warp 1 card from your hand and grant you a 10k boost power. The drawing 2 ability is insane because this card draws you 2 first, and then you get to decide what card you don't need and send it to the warp. This ability is so useful because you're able to ideally draw into the negate that you need to survive the next attack, or draw into the double strike Champa to finish off your opponent, or just draw into more of these defending Father Peregrines to obliterate your opponent. And honestly, this is the best super combo, and it's a card that you definitely want to have if you're building any deck that has a green leader, because this requires you to have a green leader, and Peregrines is a card I really recommend to get. Unfortunately, it's not a very cheap card. The structure deck or the starter deck of the Broly costs a good amount of money. It costs like $25 to $30 for the starter deck, or maybe even more. But the card on its own costs roughly around $20 to $40, guys. Depending on the rarity, of course. But it's a very expensive freaking super combo for some reason. And obviously, it's because of its broken ability of drawing 2, warping 1. Alright, so the next one happens to be a negate, and I literally think this is one of the best negates in Dragon Ball Super card game, and it's a negate that you could literally splash into any deck that runs yellow. If I said it already, you probably already know, and that card is Flying Nimbus. This is by far one of the best negates in Dragon Ball Super card game. If you are running yellow, you definitely want to own this card. If you do not own this card, buy yourself some of these. It's a very cheap negate. It only costs roughly around 50 cents or less, the, you know, common version. But obviously, if you want to be the blinged out master, this card could run you around $40 if you get the Flying Nimbus Championship Finals 2019 version. But Flying Nimbus for sure is a card that is necessary in a bunch of decks that run yellow. This card pretty much negates the attack, then you get to choose 1 yellow card in your hand, place it in the drop area, and then if you do so, your opponent cannot make any more multiple attacks with battle cards for the duration of the turn. They only get 1 more attack, and that right there is enough to save you from an onslaught of attacks that your opponent's about to diminish on you. Alright, so this card right here is literally one of my favorite cards. It's the way I usually beat most of my opponents, and I usually splash it into almost every deck I make. I try to figure out how can I add this card, and this card is necessary, and this card is Furthering Destruction Champa. This card is a game finisher. This card is the Randy Orton of Dragon Ball Super card game. RKO out of nowhere, or should I say double strike out of nowhere for the win. Ding ding ding, you just won, because this card, when you combo with it, you're able to pretty much grant double strike to the attacking card that's attacking that you comboed with. So this is literally a card that could finish the job if your opponent has 2 lives or less. You're attacking with, you could say, Master Roshi, and then you grant double strike by comboing the Champa, and then instantaneously that Master Roshi that's a weakling will be able to kill your opponent. Honestly, Furthering Destruction Champa is a card you want to own at least 2, or you could have the alternative, which is the Supreme Kai, but I don't know, I like to stick to the OG Furthering Destruction Champa, but you know, the Supreme Kai is actually better in most people's eyes. This card is relatively cheap, roughly around $1. If you want to go with the super blinged out Judge level 2, it costs roughly around $30 to $40. But, you know, get it for less than $1, I think. And you have a game ender right there, a surprise game ender. Alright, so for this next card, or should I say cards, I kind of put them all together because these are very necessary for any deck in Dragon Ball Super card game. As of now, like, these are ideal for most decks, and this little collection of cards are these cards right here. The cards that I'm speaking of are these cards like Whis, the Spectator, Android 17, Protector of Wildlife, Broly, Demonic Origin, Beerus, the Fickle God. So these type of cards, the cards that are considered dual color energy that comes out in active mode, are cards you definitely have to own. I just wanted to put all of them in one category because these are necessary for you to be playing Dragon Ball Super card game, and these are super ideal when you're building any sort of deck nowadays. These cards are a must, and they're not even that expensive, guys. They usually run between $1 or $2 or $6, like from $2 to $6 range. That's how much these cost. Obviously some cost more than others depending on which color archetype is winning. Alright, and last but not least, this one can be a little bit controversial, but it's a card that I feel if you own, you're going to be having a safe win or safe defense against your opponent for a lot of beast decks. And this card happens to be Mutaito, Skill of Sage. I know a lot of you guys are like, why that card? Well, I really like this card for the reason that whenever your opponent plays a big battle card, you're able to just play Mutaito and put the card in rest mode. So it kind of acts like a Crusher Ball in essence, but it ignores barrier and it only works with battle cards that happen to have a high amount of cost. So honestly, Mutaito, Skill of Sage is a card that I feel if you're running yellow, you're going to want this card or just own it. Like, it's not too expensive. It runs around $8, but you only need 2. So once you have Mutaito Sage of Skill, you know that in your yellow deck, you're going to be having a way to stop your opponent from doing the big ultimate plays that is usually the finishers, and you're going to stop your opponent from, you know, finishing you off. Mutaito, Skill of Sage is a card that I highly recommend a lot of people own. That's going to be the end of the video. Those are the 10 type of cards that I think you should own if you're getting into a Dragon Ball Super card game. Let me know in the comment section below if I missed one of yours. Obviously, I can't hit every card, or else I would say all the cards that you need to own in Dragon Ball Super card game, but I just wanted to cut it down to 10 cards that I feel I usually use all the time when I'm building a certain type of themed deck. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Let us know what your thoughts are. Subscribe if you are new here, and hit that little bell notification. And like we always say, y'all stay super.